definitely implies that, but then that's why fasting really is a conscious exercise of a power in us to restrain ourselves. A conscious exercise of a power in us to discipline ourselves. That's what Allah wants us to do. Restrain and discipline yourself from what? What are we doing? Where are we going? What is this all about? From doing things. You know, Allah created our life to go out and up. Out and up. And then we stand up erect. It doesn't come here like this, but that's the goal for it to go up. So Allah is saying that fasting helps keep us from doing things that would take our life down. Not physically down. The real life that's inside of the flesh. From taking it down, from weakening that life that's inside of the flesh. That's why it's prescribed for us. So these things that would take it into a bad condition. We don't want it to be in that. This is why Allah gives this to us. These things, they call them appetites of the flesh. Appetites. It's all about appetites. And this is what Ramadan is trying to get us to check appetite. To check these appetites, you know. We have to bring our flesh under the dominion of the spirit that God gave us. That's Taraweeh, associated with the spirit. Cultivating that spirit, to strengthen the spirit. Taraweeh, the spirit. And all this is talking about these things such as anger. Getting angry. You know, this is one of the things that hurt us. You know, envy, jealousy, all these things. So these are important things. Bitterness, strife, greed, lust, etc. You know, all these things when they begin to creep up. You know, being able to restrain ourselves. And the goal is for us to really to do this all the time. Not just 1 month, it's to do it all the time, you know, but Ramadan gives us an intensive course. We just had an intensive course. You know, we don't want to lose the benefit of an intensive course, not so early, you know. We're trying to be strong because Allah has given us it because He knows and we know that weak people can't discipline themselves. So He requires there to be strong servants, you know, strong worshipers. You know, so we won't build those among the weak. You know, people who are weak, they're not going to check themselves. They're going to overeat, you see? And they're going to be overweight and these kind of things because they can't check themselves. And most of the time, they know they shouldn't be eating some of the things they eat. Jelly donuts, all the different donuts, so many of them, you know, extra large French fries, everything is being large size, you know, extra cheese on the pizza. And then, you know, this stuff is stuff that we shouldn't give ourselves to, you know. And sometimes they'll tell you that this stuff is fattening. And they call it junk food. Junk food, and we know it. And that means that it has no nutritional value. It's not going to help your system. It's not healthy for your system. You know, so weak people, they're going to do it anyway, you know, but Allah knows that people must have something they give priority to among the things that they respect. And this is part of what tatakun means also. It means a high respect. To have, if you have this high respect, and it doesn't just mean Allah. The taqwa is not just for Allah. Allah also associates taqwa with your parents and the wombs that bore you. Taqwa taqwa arham. Well, he also said taqwa nar, right? Have a high respect for the fire. Yes, it's real. He says it's real, right? So that means that really to have this high regard, this respect for everything that needs to have respect for. You see? So, you know, we can lose respect for ourselves. And sometimes we lose their respect to the extent that we risk our own life, and we see it every day. Our young kids are wrapped into it, but they're not the only ones wrapped into it. We just happen to see it, hitting a lot of news because of the kind of things that they're doing. But a lot of us older, we do the same thing. We do things we know that is not good for us and it hurts us. We have to be reminded about it often and all the time. And we know these things that hurt us. And, you know, then our attitudes, the things that we say, it would be like, you know cigarettes not good for you. You know that's going to hurt you. You know drugs, you know alcohol. Those things will kill you. And then, of course, we know what we were saying. They say is, well, you got to die from something. You don't have to die from that. You don't have to die from that. But they say, well, you got to die from something. Maybe it will be something I enjoy. You know, like Allah said, you may like a thing that's not good for you and just like something that's bad for you. So, again, Allah is trying to guide us. You know, most of us have respect, really, for our own individual bodies and selves. But Allah is saying just to have that, He says it's not big enough. And Ramadan is to show us that that's not big enough to save us. The only thing that can save us is to make Allah. To make Allah the object. To make Allah the ruler over our life. That's what can save us. That's bigger than us. That's bigger. You just focus on yourself, not going to be, and that's why a lot of the so-called celebrities, when they start focusing on just themselves, they can't survive. They're not meant to handle a lot of things, praise, etc., because that's all supposed to be belonging to Allah. And our beloved prophet, he said, you are to behave as though you are seeing Allah. Say, you are to behave as though you are seeing Allah. For if you are not seeing Him, you know He sees you. Know that He is seeing you. Now, if we will respect Allah, la'alakum tattaqun, And this is in this Lalakun Tatakun. If we can respect Allah to that extent, it will give us the strength that we need. It will give us the strength in our whole life, not just part of our life, our whole life. And people who have that kind of taqwa, that kind of consciousness, that kind of fear, that kind of respect for a higher command in their lives, then they have the strength that's needed to keep the proper discipline that we just gained from this ninth month, this month of Ramadan. You know, the road Allah lets us know that in life it's not easy. It's not an easy one. He can make things easy for us, but it's not an easy life. But we do know that because Allah prescribed for us, that it assures us the best life possible. This is what we have to understand. You know, he said kutiba. It means it's obviously it's natural for you, it's a part of you. He has prescribed this way of life for us. And it challenges us in many ways. You know, Allah says that لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. He said that he has created us. And of course, it's translated into toil and struggle. We created in the toil and struggle. And of course, science now have looked at that, to look at the process of how it goes, and we know that there's some toil, there's some struggle. Each of us, even in the microscopic state, going against the billions of cells, trying to make it, struggling, and then we were the ones that survived. And then of course, there's other things that are taking place in terms of the development. And then because we know we come out of that, so that's all a part of what we're going through, is this toil and struggle. And it's kept. But this word kebet, it also Allah wants us to look at, to understand what we go through. He wants to look at the liver. This is also the word for liver that's in our body. He wants to look at the nature. He used that word. There's other things he used to say difficulty and challenges, but he used this word because he wants us to associate our life with this. And we know this is the largest gland in the body, the liver. So this is the word he's using, but this is the largest gland in the body. And the liver itself, it kind of supports 500 different vital functions. The liver, 500 vital functions, you know, that's in the body. It's considered one of the hardest working in the body. I mean, the heart, they say it's challenging between the heart and the liver. You know, the heart works hard, but the way this liver, the kind of things it does too, they say it's close. But both of them are hard, but they say this thing is a hard worker. It just does a whole lot. It supports so many different things in the body. And without a healthy liver, of course, we know we got medical people in here, we know you're not going to survive. You're not going to survive. So Allah is telling us how we have to be. We have to work like that. He created us to work like that, to do those kinds of things. He look at the nature and what the liver is doing in terms of trying to get rid of impurities in the society of self, etc. All the different things, detoxing. Those are the kind of things that we're supposed to be about doing, and that's how he created us, to be about doing those kinds of things. So Allah wants us to think about that when he say these things and uses certain particular words for us. You know, he says, who seeks victory to succeed for Allah's sake? Who? Who seeks victory for Allah's sake? He said, if you do that, then he's going to make you victorious. If you seek it for his sake. Now, if you seek it for your own sake or for somebody else's sake, then of course that's not what's going to lead to victory. He's not going to make you victorious over that, you know. And we know that the best victory is over ourselves. We know that. We'll learn that now, because that's what he gives us Ramadan, because that's an individual victory, and that's the first victory. And we know that the best conquest is to manage your ahwa. And this is what we are denied in the month of Ramadan, our impulses, these urges, these appetites. You know, and that's what Satan came to. He gave into his ahwa. They got him through his appetite. Satan got him through his appetites, not through his taqwa, not through the taqwa, not through that. He got him to come out of that. And that's what Allah is trying to clothe us in, and that we shouldn't come out of, so he can't get us. But that's how he got Satan. Not through taqwa, but through this ahwa, through these appetites. And the Prophet said to achieve self-control is the best jihad. It's the best jihad. We use that word, you know. And the religion, we know, challenges us to take our own forces, to take our own impulses into our hand, and we have to manage them well. You know, he said, everybody is a ra'i. You're a shepherd over yourself. You got over all this. You have to be able to manage this, guide and direct it in the right way. Nothing challenges the human being. Nothing challenges the human being more than his own creation. Isn't that something? Our own creation is our biggest challenge. You know, man has not failed in the world, been overcome in the world, you know, because of the challenges to him from outside the world. We've been able to conquer those things, haven't we? We look at history and what we've been able to do, you see, but rather because of the challenges from our own self. From our own self. You know, that's why they say, look in the mirror. That's the one you got to defeat. The other stuff comes easy for us. You know, and that's why during the time of Rasulullah, the present peace be upon him, They was fighting these big battles, and he said, he said, these were the big ones. Now you got to go fight the big battle. And they say, what can be bigger than this? He said, with yourself. With yourself. That's the bigger one. That's the bigger one. And so again, Ramadan gives us the tools that we need so we can be successful. And Ramadan has taught us that Allah requires of us that we got to be able to discipline ourselves. You have to be able to restrain ourselves. You know, and really, again, this ninth month takes us back to the birth of human beings, children. You know, life as we understand it, if we understand it, it's like a child of human emotions. So it's just to tell us how well we fare in life, as Allah wants us to. It depends on how successful we are in gaining influence over these tendencies in our emotions to be extreme. And that's what Satan does. He takes what's natural and makes it unnatural. That's what he does. He don't start from something that's not in existence. He takes what's in existence, and then he wants to change it, deface it, and stretch it. That's his job. And that's what he did with our parent Adam and his mate. He called it a stretch, and they came out. So this is what he did. So God said, don't let him get you like he got them. Don't let Satan get you like he got your parents. He reminds us of that. You know, so we don't want to let Satan loose, you know. So we look at things now. We hear people say, you know, how many are defeated when they begin to set goals? Now, obviously, Ramadan was a goal, so Allah is teaching us that's a goal. But again, he has some imposed discipline because he's watching us, and we stick to that because we're doing it for Allah's sake. But outside of that, how many I was defeated when we set goals? We set goals for our health outside. We set goals for using our time. We set goals with our families. We set goals to pursue higher education. We set goals, man, I want to learn some Arabic and such and such. And you set goals to try to overcome all kind of bad habits and these kind of things. You know, but we don't fare well because we defeat ourselves by our attitudes. Attitudes that grow and build up because of what? Because of ahwa. Because of ahwa. Because of these urges in us that we have not disciplined. These urges in us that we have not refined and cannot control. And that's what we see. It happens all the time with all kinds of people on different levels. And again, if you can't control it, then obviously you come to say Shaitan, because he couldn't control, he couldn't hold back. Yeah, I'm better than him. You know, it just came out. He was fire. He just came out. And that's what happens to all of us too. We can't control things and stuff come out. We don't see, and then all of a sudden we become a tool, or we become one of the imps. The shayateen, right? These imps, there's many of them, right? There's shaitan, there's shayateen, there's many. And again, they get their start in human beings. That's where things get their start in with us. So if we can successfully manage the challenge to our life, and this is what Allah was giving us in the month of Ramadan, so we can see the big picture. If we can successfully do that and our emotional makeup, which is a big part of what Allah has given us, then we're ready. We're ready to make lasting contributions to the betterment of society. And this is what this is really to get us to do. Nobody else goes to this rigorous training like we do. Allah is trying to prepare us for something, you know. And we have a job to do. You know, Muhammad the Prophet, the peace be upon him, during his time, he had a job to do. And we saw things go from just one that began to grow, and then all of a sudden the whole peninsula where he was at, that began to change, and because the surrounding environment began to change. And so now Islam is right here. We have to see here that Allah wants to clean us up and prepare us to do the job that we're required to do. And our job is not just be to live here in America and be able to take off to come to Jumah, and be able to make our 5 daily prayers and those kind of things. That's not what our job is just do. No, our job is to move society forward, to bring out the best in human nature. You know, we have to challenge certain things. We have to be conscious. You know, so but Allah is basically saying, if you ain't ready, if you haven't managed your own impulses, you know, you hadn't managed these appetites, these desires, then you ain't ready to make lasting contributions. We are benefiting from lasting contributions that Muhammad the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he and his followers, that they made lasting contributions. We are benefiting from those things right now today because they were able to do this. Don't you know it's not just to be confined to just that time that lasting contributions are made for human society and human life? No, we are the followers of Muhammad the Prophet, the Prophet peace be upon him. We're supposed to be making some lasting contributions from our time. This is our time now. That was their time. And they were able to do these things. And they left a contribution that the world has benefited from. You think that's the best the world going to have? It's more to come from us if we can understand this and connect with Allah's guidance and discipline ourselves and unite. Then we'll be able to do some of the same things that we saw during the time different. They may look different based on where we are. But we can do it. We're in every arena in human life. I mean, it's amazing how when I look at, they had the picture, the largest group of Muslims associated with any administration, They had, I think 80 of them showed up. It was more than that, but 80 of them showed up. And I just looked at, and I'm on the body that elects a lot of these people and puts them in, and I look at the rap sheet and the kind of things they're doing, and just to look at how vast we are, the kind of skills that we have, the kind of minds that we have, individually. Now, if we can bring all that together and begin to work for our collective life, then we can begin to do what Allah created us to do. If we embrace coming out of this 9th month, we can begin to make these contributions, That's a test. Ramadan is a test. Allah said He created us for a test. And we won't progress if we don't have a test. He said you have to be tested. He said you have to be tested. To say you believe is not enough. You have to be tested. He said everybody was tested. He said look back. Even those with the prophet themselves and those with him, they had to cry out. We're going to come to help of Allah. Because everybody has to be tested, brothers and sisters. And the more the soul, it's not the flesh, it ain't about the flesh. The more the soul is challenged, the more the good potential in the soul is brought out. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wa salatu wa salam. Ala Rasulihi Kareem. Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Yeah, so 9th month. Allah sends us back, the return. He sends us back home the 9th month. We're in the womb of the mother for an expected 9 months. Certainly highlights, and that's one of the reasons why the women are in a superior position in the ritual. It protects the woman, how special they are. They carry life. They carry the woman's life, and the man has to go out front to protect that life. So the baby, when the baby in 9 months, when the baby comes, and I'm not gonna go into it now, but that 9 has a lot to do with chapter 9 too. There's no Bismillah at the beginning of chapter 9, no preamble. But in the 9th month, the baby is too young to say Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. What we say is the first verse of Al-Fatiha, and of course it's the preamble to every other verse except chapter 9. But this is related to 9. It's related to Ramadan. The baby is not. They can't say it, and that's because they're going on their nature. They're going on their nature. You see, the nature that Allah created them is in their nature is supporting Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. It knows Allah. But later they become conscious, right? But not initially. And the ability of man's brain, and Allah is really, this is the more superior thing that we have. This is from our dear beloved prophet, the Prophet, peace upon him, saying Allah created nothing more superior than the akal, of the brain. Our ability of man's intellect, and it starts in the dark. This is how it starts. And again, if we want to understand, it starts in the dark. When you're in your mother, it's dark in there. That's where, but the brain is developed. The heart has the first brain. The heart develops completely, and it has a brain of its own, and that develops before this brain. Which is one of the signs when we do prostration. That's the only time, after we come out of this position to stand up, that the heart now comes back over the top of the brain. Other than that, the brain is here, and it has to come down to the heart. When we're in sajda, then the heart is now on top. So, but it starts like that, and as soon as we're born, though, when we come out of that, then we begin to become conscious. If you're blessed to have life, you become conscious in the big world. Shawwal, the term Shawwal, the name of the month, it means to wake up. The name, it means to wake up. It means to rise up. This is the meaning of the word Shawwal. It means to be lifted. It means to be light and to be vigorous, to be moved. A lot of the months got their name from the things that were taking place in the month. So in the month of Shawwal, when we look at the history, the Muslims, that was a month they began to come out and they would do a lot of activity, particularly a lot of hunting. A lot of that would take place in this month of Shawwal, this 10th month. And again, it represents consciousness. You know, alakon tatakon. And again, we say often, you know, in the world of boxing, if you can make the 10 count, you're conscious. You can't make that, you're not conscious. So that tells you that this 10 is associated with consciousness. In fact, in most of our traditions, the celebrations take place on 10. We have Arafat on the 9th, and the 10th day is the next Eid, right? 10 again. 10 again. So all these things really, a lot of them do anything without a purpose, without a meaning, without something for us to take note of. And the conscious mind, really, what science says now, it represents 10% of the total capacity. 10% of the total capacity of the brain, and this awareness state, this focus state. And it said that when the conscious mind sleeps, that means the person is asleep. If the conscious mind is asleep, that means the person is asleep. And it says the unconscious mind, which represents, they say 90%. There's that 9 again, right? With not conscious. 90%, it's awake when we sleep. But it goes to sleep when we wake up. Then that 10 kicks in. We know the mu'adhin, we just heard from a mu'adhin, he is supposed to be conscious. And the mu'adhin has to be attentive. We just heard him. And then he calls us. He's calling us now. Get ready, be attentive, be conscious, you know, and let us know what's getting ready to come. But obviously the meaning, because we know it says Allahu Akbar, attentive to what? Attentive to the obligation to put Allah first. That's the first thing. Put Allah first. And then we know that it was something that was included, associated with sleep, right? In that morning prayer, you know, for the Fajr prayer, it says prayer is better than sleep. As-salatu khayrun, better than sleep. But it's all these things, Allah allowed these things to develop to let us know that it's what kind of sleep it's talking about. It's really sleep to not being conscious or attentive to matters, to things that should have our attention, that matters that deserve our attention. You know, this world, you know, you can tell Satan, they're challenging being, they say, oh, you trying to be awoke, or you awoke now, you know. So this is the term that they use now, which they're saying basically they're trying to alert people to racial prejudice and discrimination. And so this is what the others, the so-called extreme right, say they're not getting with that. You know, they accuse people that if they say you with that wake doctrine, that this is what you're in tune to. The social justice stuff, they're trying to have a diverse society, these kind of things, looking at the needs and what's going on. They don't want you to be awake. But see, this is how the language comes in now. And some people don't know what do they mean when they say that. I thought that's what we all want to be awake. We all want to be conscious. But this is the kind of language they put in society, and this is how Satan try to twist things. You see, that's natural to begin to make it unnatural, and then they push that, and they're using that for all these other things that they're doing now to try to remove stuff from the society, say that's associated with that being woke. We don't want that, you know. But here Allah calls us to say these things, we should be conscious. We should be awake to things that deserve our attention. And these are things that deserve our attention. In fact, the things they speak about, they really deserve our attention. And certainly for us as Muslims, we have to wake up and respond to these things and be involved in these things and look and find ways to challenge, but we get more support and more help when we bring our collective life together and maximize our collective voice. It's difficult to challenge that. Do you know that's one of the reasons why we've gotten so many Muslims now in the administration? Because for the first time really in the history, major Muslim organizations, for that purpose, we're unified. We come together and we meet and we're unified. Now we go back to our corners after that, but we come together for that. We're all on the same page. We work the script, we approve the script, and we meet with the White House. We say, well, you got these many organizations and we all support this. This is what we want. And they respect that. They respect that. And I mean, it's very cordial. And they come back and they move. And so now they come to us and they say, well, you know, y'all been giving us some good people. You know, I mean, y'all do your own internal vetting before they come to us and say, y'all give us some good people. And say, in fact, do you have anybody for this? Do you have anybody for this? So we see that, and that's how it should be, shouldn't it? Isn't that to be expected if you have the final book in the form of Revelation, the most excellent model? And he tells us when you do something, you're supposed to seek perfection in it. Whenever you endeavor to do anything, that makes sense that Muslims will fare better in these arenas. And you see how Allah is setting the stage. He's setting the stage. But what we're going to need to do now is become more unified. That's just a model. That's just a model for that purpose. But there are other purposes now. We have to be able to build up our life. That's not going to be sufficient for us to really hold our youth, because the super culture is very attractive. And it pulls on, and most of you here now, you know it's pulling on your children. It's hard for you to get them away from that. You see? So we have to begin to build institutions. When they begin to see us do that, then the confidence, then the belief, then they can see. Their nature tells them they're not satisfied with just coming to a masjid. Their own nature tells them that. Because they used to building things. They start out young, writing, building, doing something in school, producing stuff. So when they come out, if we're not doing anything as a body, then we're not serving their needs. The others are serving their needs because they're creating things they can go to and not bring out some culture. They want a spoken word and all these kind of things they want to do, but we haven't built any institutions. We get into ourselves and we want to progress our careers, and we individually, but if we come together, we can build establishment that will be alternative to the culture, alternative to the super culture. And we have all these bright, brilliant minds. And just like we're seeing it, just one example I'm showing you, just like an example of them seeing the candidates to be superior, I use that word, than some others. They will begin to see that even in the alternative culture that we provide will be more suitable for them to want to be a part of. Because a lot of other stuff, like what the Pope say, the culture is the culture of death. And that's what it calls them to. I mean, all the filthy stuff that they call them to, you know, language, dress, everything else. We all know that. But again, because in nature, culture really is a part of what Allah created us to be attractive to. So they're attracted to that. They don't understand what, some of them don't even know why. But the nature says, so if we didn't produce any alternative for them, then you're saying you don't have a choice. You told them they don't have a choice. They don't know it consciously, but they just go with what's there. But when we produce choices and give them the places, and the history is showing this, then we respond. We respond. We become and we be a more healthier people. So we have Shawwal. This is an opportunity for us now to fast. The prophet said, whoever fasts the month of Ramadan and then follows it with 6 days of fasting in the month of Shawwal, it will be as if he fasted the full year. The full year. So the reward of good deeds are times 10, as we know. This is, again, another statement of our beloved prophet, praise peace upon him. You know, Ramadan is like fasting for 10 months. And whether you do 29 or 30, you get credit for 30. That's just the way it works. So that's 300 days. We already have those who completed, we already have credit for 300 days. Now, in 6 days of Shawwal, and it don't have to be consecutive days. I mean, Shawwal is already in now. You have to do it consecutive. 6 days of Shawwal is like fasting for 2 months. It's like fasting for 2 months. Just the 6 days of this month, so that's 60 days that you get credit for fasting. So you put those two together, 300 and the 60, that's 12 months, that's 360 days. So so what our prophet's statement said is like you fast a whole year. Who wouldn't want to get credit for doing that? And again, Shawwal goes out something like May 20th or something like that, but you got some days to get 6 days on. All you got to do is get in 6 days and to get that in. Look, six days of voluntary fasting are to Ramadan what sunnah prayers are to our obligatory prayers. And if we understand that, sunnah prayers help make up for deficiencies in our obligatory prayers. You know, in our prayer, we know we make mistakes sometimes. Your mind might wander off, you might be neglectful. You know, you make that sunnah prayer to help clear up those things. You know, so like the sunnah prayers, extra fast, it covers up deficiencies in a person's prayer. And we're not talking about deficiencies like missing days of fasting. That's not what it's talking about. This is talking about those things that deals with your conduct maybe when you was fasting. You may have gotten away, that distracted you from the value of that fast day, of the value of that fast as worship, you see. So our returning to the habit of fasting, if we return to the habit of fasting after Ramadan, do you know that it's a sign? If you can go back and fast, if you can begin to fast, it's a sign that your Ramadan fast was accepted. If you do that, if you can't, this is what the prophet say, when Allah accepts our worship, he blesses us to engage in further acts of worship. This is what the prophet is saying. So the reward of virtue is more acts of virtue, more times fast. So following a good deed with others like it is a sign that the first good deed that you did was accepted by Allah. So by contrast also, if a person's good deed is followed by a sinful one, if you did a good deed and then it followed by a sinful one, it's an indication that your first good deed might not have been accepted. So if you come out of Ramadan, you go right back to the things that you was doing. That's a sign really that your Ramadan wasn't accepted. But if you can begin, and again, those who couldn't fast but had the intention to fast and they sustained from other things, do those things for 6 days. If you can do that, then of course that will be a sign also that yours was accepted as well. Now Allah said He said many things about the fast. Obviously, it's guidance, clarity on the guidance, criteria for the guidance, and He say that you may to kebaru Allah, that He wants us to have this Ramadan so we can magnify Him. In that He has guided us, and la'alakum tashkurun. And we'll end with this point. La'alakum tashkurun. And He say, first He say la'alakum tatakun in the first verse, and then this later verse comes, He say la'alakum tashkurun. So the elevated consciousness, now tashkurun, meaning this appreciation, this gratitude. Maybe perchance you have this elevated consciousness, and then maybe perchance, He ends it with that, maybe perchance you will have this great appreciation. You have this gratitude, you see. So getting into the habit of fasting, again soon after, it's a means of giving thanks. It's really a means of giving thanks to Allah for blessings, that you receive. After Ramadan, the month of Shawwal, and now it's the month, of the rewards. So this is like saying that I'm thanking Allah for the rewards that I already got for fasting. Look, one of the students of the Prophet was asked about the blessings. Now listen to this. He was asked about the blessings of various acts of devotion, and he replied. Now he asked the Prophet this about the blessings. This key thing was, what are the blessings? So listen to what he says. This is the Prophet. The Prophet says this: do not ask about the blessings. Don't ask about the blessings that can be earned by performing these acts of worship. Rather, ask how you can show your thanks to Allah if He blesses you to perform them. For He is the one who assists us in doing so. So looking at it, so every blessing that Allah gives us is something that we have to be thankful for. If you get it, you should thank Allah for that. So when Allah blesses us to show thanks, then that's another blessing from Allah that deserves further thanks. Look at the life of our Prophet again, the prayers be upon him. And this is what we'll end with. We have a wonderful example. He established what we call sunnah. We call it sunnah. It's nafil, it's extra, right? We call it sunnah prayers. And they are prayers that the Prophet, we know these are things that the Prophet established. And the Prophet, he told, he said that Allah said, do this. Allah ordered this much. We know about the century came down and what was ordered. And He said, Allah, and these are mandatory. But then Allah tells us, look at the Prophet Muhammad because he's an example for us of excellence. So Prophet says that here Allah ordered so many prayers. Allah ordered so many prayers. But in the Prophet's action, he's saying his action says, oh Allah, you told me to do that, but I'm going to do more. He said, you told me to do this, but I'm going to do more. He said that. He didn't have to. He started this first. That's why we do it now, because he did it. He said, but I'm going to do more. Now look at the Spirit. Look at the Spirit. But now He's us. Now He said, Ana Bashar Mitakun. So He's showing us something really that's in us. That some of us have to go dormant, but He wanted to bring it out also. So the Spirit in Him is in our nature. If it came out of Him, that means it's in our nature to want to do the same thing. To want to do what? To want to exceed standards. The standard was 5. But His nature told Him to exceed that standard. And we see it in our children sometimes. We do so they may want to do more. They may do a sooner chore, so to speak, huh? They do more. They want to exceed the standard that we put in place for them. On our jobs, the jobs have this criteria, these performance reports. They can have it and you met the standard. But obviously, if you exceed that standard, that goes a lot further. So He's exceeding the standard. And these are voluntary prayers, really, that your own good nature. He's showing us your own good nature dictates. And look at it tells us two things. It tells us two things. Allah is so kind. Allah is so merciful that He has not imposed on us. He has not imposed on you. Has not imposed on me the limit of our capacity. He has not imposed on us the limit of our capacity. And the other thing it says is that man in his excellence is so good that he accepts more than what Allah asks of him. His human nature goes further than what Allah insists. His human nature insists that he do more than even his God, his Lord, insists he do. Why? What's driving it, brother? What's driving it, sister? It's because of the love. Allah said they do these things out of love. Out of love for him. Out of love for him and appreciation and showing gratitude. This is what it's for. Love and gratitude. So, look, thank you, Allah. You did 5. Thank you, Allah. Now that you told me to do 5, you say, you move over. We say, my heart is still moving me to say more. I'm going to do more than what you ordered. And you go, Allahu Akbar, you start assuming a prayer. Something that's not required, driven by what's in your very nature. And this is clear about Muhammad, the prophet, the prayer peace be upon him. He prayed so much, people saw him with feet swelling, etc. They came to him, and they say, Allah has already forgiven you. Why are you doing all of this? He said, shouldn't I do just that much more to show that I'm grateful? This is a model for us. Demonstrates the mercy, wonderment, and beauty of Allah, but also of human beings. Also of me, you, brother, sister. When we recognize that our thanks is never enough, when we recognize that, this is the highest expression of the gratitude we can give to Allah. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. Come into Islam.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Hayya ala salat, hayya ala salat. Qad qamat as-salat, qad qamat as-salat. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah.
La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. Stove. You know, make sure your lines are straight. Very important that we consciously make sure our lines are straight. Allahu Akbar. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. ألم نشرح لك صدرك ووضعنا عنك وزرك الذي أنقض ظهرك ورفعنا لك ذكرك فإن مع العسر يسرا إن مع العسر يسرا فإذا فرغت فانصب وإلى ربك فارغب. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الرحمن الرحيم. مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. استغفر الله استغفر الله استغفر الله استغفر الله. اللهم انت السلام ومنك السلام تبارك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العظيم. Assalamu alaikum. Some brief announcements, inshallah. Yeah, we did do a janazah right before Jumah for our dear blood pioneer brother, Mustafa Omar. Again, he goes back to the 60s. He was one of the champions here, helped stabilize this community, helped grow this community that we're benefiting from right now. And it was so beautiful. He passed. He was able to go through Ramadan with a strong desire to fast Ramadan. He was ill. Then Allah blessed him to pass on the first day of the Eid. And his passing was so beautiful because when they went to see him, he was wide awake, and they started washing him. And when they were bathing him is when he went. He left. He passed. They're doing the bathing on the Eid al-Fitr, which is a good sign associated with the water in terms of life. You come from water, and then Allah bring him from that. And because we know illnesses, when you pass anyway, as a believer, it's like expiation for sins and those kinds of things. And so make dua for him, make dua for his family. We did it now earlier, but keep him and his family present. Others like him, and we got to find ways to honor them as well. I did a recording from him. He was talking one day. This is in the last days. He just started talking, so I asked him if I can record. And he went on for about almost another hour. And so it was some wonderful things that was coming from his soul that we're going to find a way to share that with you all. I think we can benefit from someone in that state, coming from the cleanliness and the purity of what he was going through, and having had a love for the community, a love for Allah. He loved Allah. And I was saying our Fatiha with him. And so he just put his hands up, and he started taking over our Fatiha. And then he went on. This is the last day. Then he went on to say about 5 more surahs. He said about 5 more surahs after that, it's strong too, And of course, days later, Allah blesses him to do the return. It's reward time for him. So again, we're getting ready to expand this building now. We've been having some intense meetings. Allah is blessing us coming out of Ramadan. We're getting some help. So expect soon, Allah putting more people in front of us that are coming to us now that we needed, some stuff we needed, some experts we needed. Allah blessed them to come to us as part of our prayers for Ramadan, and so things are really looking up. And so we look to at some point real soon to start the project. And I just heard back from the church down the street and others, so we have some alternative space to take the Jumah to, and hopefully we can do our daily prayers. It's important that we pray together. And I'm telling you, brothers those and sisters too, you need to step it up and try to get to the Masjid for more prayers than just Jumah. We're not a Jumat, we're Ummah. So don't just think about praying together for Jumah. Let's try to make some other prayers. Saturdays tomorrow, we should see more brothers on Saturday mornings than we do during the week. Because most of us are off on that time. For sacrifice though, we should sacrifice. The rewards are great. Wherever you come from, the rewards are great. If you sacrifice and struggle to make the morning prayer, the rewards are so much greater if you make that Fajr prayer in the Masjid in terms of what you open up for yourself. So try to do that. Sunday, Saturday or Sunday, try to do that. Try to add, if you can't get both of them, at least try to add one. If you can do more days, but other days during the week too. Try to get more time for us praying together. It helps strengthen us and our community to go so much further with so many people praying in the space that we have dedicated in service to Allah and to help forward us. So, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. And we got one of our dear brothers here. He know he wasn't going to get away, so he. Alaikum salam.
How are you?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. This is our very resourceful Imam out of Texas, and he know he couldn't get away with coming here and not saying something.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulihi al-Kareem Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'een amma ba'da. The security, I'm double parked, so mashallah, please have patience. I'm in a white Chevy Traverse, so I'm double parked, but he let us park. The contributions of Masjid Muhammad historically are immeasurable. As I was pulling in with my wife today, I told her the brilliance of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to build the first masjid from the ground up in the history of America by indigenous Muslims in Washington, D.C., in the capital, and not a cheap building, but a beautiful facility. The vision of that leader to know that Islam had to be represented in Washington, D.C., in the capital of America, and not recognized in a small way, but in a big way. So I know many people just come here to pray, you may, because this is the closest masjid to you, but please take a minute to take in the historical nature of this masjid and appreciate the historical nature of this masjid. For if it was not for Masjid Muhammad, all of the other masajid in Washington, D.C., every place you go, all the small masajid that's popped up, all the big masajid that came from the humble efforts of poor people. This masjid wasn't built by doctors giving $100,000 and $200,000 donations. This masjid wasn't built by engineers giving $300,000 and $400,000 donations. This masjid was built on people with faith in a vision, with faith in a future, hoping and praying in their souls that one time down the road, Islam would have its full expression in a place like Washington, D.C. So this masjid deserves all of your support. This masjid deserves all of your prayers. For this is the flagship masjid, and this is the masjid that began the spirit and the growth for Islam in Washington, D.C. and many other places all around the country. So support it as much as you can. Masjid Muhammad shouldn't even have to say anything in terms of expansion. Every masjid in Washington area should send a $100,000 donation to Masjid Muhammad with no issues. And let it be done khalas. Every masjid in the area should host a fundraiser for Masjid Muhammad. This masjid should be taken care of because every prayer that's made in the Washington, D.C. area, it comes back to the flagship, the foundation, this masjid. And on my way out, I saw Imam Yusuf Salim. And I'm so happy to see him as he's matured and as he's a fine individual who held the fort down for so long. And when you thought about Washington, D.C., you thought about Imam Yusuf Salim, mashallah, and Allah blessed him with a humility that reflects the humility of an Abu Bakr. Allah blessed him to be a very humble person. And then, mashallah, Allah turned it over from Abu Bakr to Umar radiallahu anhu, and Imam Shareef has that very, very disciplined personality. So it's as if you got the boast. You had Abu Bakr for years, mashallah, and now Allah has given you Omar. So you're experiencing two of the Sahaba of Muhammad the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's wonderful to see you. I'm so happy to be in D.C. I'm here to review the nutrition program for Morgan State. So I didn't make a big deal about it, so I'll be reviewing them starting on Sunday. I'll be in Morgan State for 3 days as an accreditation reviewer, but I couldn't come to Washington without coming by Masjid Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Again, this is our dear brother Imam Wazir Ali out of Houston, Texas. Imam Doctor. And we thank Allah for him. And in fact, he's not a first generation. He's like a second or third generation. area, and his children are coming up as well, and they're resourceful leaders as well. So he's upon the shoulders of those who came before.
Tony wishes to take the shot.
Okay. We got a brother want to take his shahada. Let me ask him a question in a minute first. So, our dear brother, say your name.
Tony Hansford.
Say it again.
Tony Hansford.
Tony Hansford. Now, he has a brother, Jalen, that's been working with him because, again, we have to be conscious. People just can't be emotional, take a shahada, and not understand what that means. So you want to make sure you understood what that means and what he's responsible for once you take that shahada. He's witnessing for himself. Shahada means to witness for yourself. And then that's the first pillar. And then we know the second one, you got prayers and all these other things that come into play. So he said he's good to go. So we're going to now have him repeat after me. Ashhadu
Ashhadu
an la
an la
ilaha
ilaha
illallah
illallah
wa
wa
ashhadu
anna
Muhammadan
Muhammadan
Rasulullah.
Rasulullah.
I bear witness
I bear
that
witness
there is no God
that there is no God
except Allah.
except Allah.
And I bear witness
And I bear witness
that Muhammad
that Muhammad
is the messenger of Allah.
is the messenger of Allah.
Takbir. 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 Our beloved brother, come on, stand with him, please. We want to let you know that you have just joined the body of over 1.7 billion Muslims around the world. And you are in this month of Shawwal, coming out of the month of Ramadan, the month of being conscious, the month of awakening, the month of return. You have just returned as though you came from your mother, sinless. Your sins have been dropped. You have a new slate. You have a new slate, a new beginning, a new opportunity. So we're here to help you. It's a path, but you're not alone. I want you to know about your brothers abroad, but you also have brothers here. Make sure you get with Imam Yusuf Salim right there. We don't want everybody to come up to you. We have some people that they mess some people up. So make sure you get with Imam Yusuf Salim first, okay. and then others who we know that are trusted and stuff, and keep you on the path that you selected to be on. That Allah have called you to. Your own nature, Allah have called you to this. And so we thank our brother Jalen, right?
Yes, sir.
For being your support, and he's there to continue to support you as well. Assalamu alaikum and congratulations.